word of welcome to everyone, especially if there were any visitors who have decided to join us today. We're so glad you're here and hope that you will enjoy this fellowship. Today is, as I think most of you will probably know, a very special service. We are going to have a service that is centered around our thoughts and prayers and gratitude for creatures, for animals. As Tessa and Chris and I have been talking, a lot of moving parts and a lot of interesting things are going to happen. And it's still so good to be a part of a congregation that is really able to go with the flow and just enjoy our presence in whatever way it comes to us. So it is important. It's always important in every service that in terms of the technical aspects that Tessa and Chris work on. But just to remind everyone that especially in this service, there's going to be a couple times it's really important for two things. For you to be on mute, and of course, Chris or Tessa will put everybody on mute, but sometimes folks have a way of going back off or it comes back off. So if you see that you're not on mute, please mute yourself. The second one is in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. There is a box that has 12 dots in it. And when you put your cursor on that, when I put mine on there right now, it says gallery view, which means if I click it, it will go to gallery view. But you do not want to be on gallery view. So you click that off of gallery view until it says speaker view. And that's going to be really important when folks are sharing their stories and also when we have the slideshow, so that if somebody was speaking and they weren't muted, it could pull the screen away from the animal, the picture of the animal or the video of the animal. So, okay, with having said that, there is a centering thought there from that I used a few weeks ago, but is an important one to me as we begin worship, led in our centering by the Angel Band, which I think has a lot to do with the Johnson family singing. I'm sorry, the name of the song is Angel Band, but I think the whole group would qualify as angels. So we're glad to have them lead us now in the centering music.
To my
to worship, responsive. And I think Chris will put that up. You see it there at the top. Let us be called to worship. Blessed be God, creator of heaven and earth. All creation sings your praises. And our first hymn is Creative God, You Spread the Earth. It's to a tune I think we know. Jan, I would like for you to play that through the whole tune through the one time before we start on verse 1. Let us sing. That hymn served both as an opening hymn of praise and a hymn prayer of confession, didn't it? And I pronounce that as we seek to follow God and give God our heart and life, that we are forgiven. Now let us share in the peace of Christ. May the peace of Christ be with you and also with you. Peace, everyone. Item is some more beautiful music by the Johnsons. I think it's Steve, Let God. Thank you, Steve.
Gotta let God do the things we can't do. It's all about working together to reach a promised land. Gotta let the Spirit give us wings to fly on through, and let God do the things we can't do. When we keep our hearts and minds wide open, we can stop talking about it, start being the change. When we let our words bless a stranger in the good Lord's name, we can stop talking about it and be the change. When we understand all is one, we'll be free from the chains of hatred, fear, and greed. When we let the light that we are help us see. Then we'll understand all is one and we'll be free. Make a brighter world every day with one kindness. It's all about helping a brother, sister in need. When we make room for another at the welcome table, we make the world a little brighter day by day. Gotta let God do the things we can't do. It's all about working together to reach a promised land. Gotta let the Spirit give us wings to fly on.
Seems like the recording stopped just short of the end.
Oh,
Steve, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. I had not ever heard that song, Steve. That is beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much. I would like to read you our scripture lesson this morning. This is from Psalm 104, just about my favorite psalm of all in the Psalter. Bless the Lord, O my soul. O Lord, my God, you are very great. You are clothed with honor and majesty. You make springs gush forth in the valleys. They flow between the hills, giving drink to every wild animal. The wild ones quench their thirst. By the streams, the birds of the air have their habitation. They sing among the branches. From your lofty abode, you water the mountains. The earth is satisfied with the fruit that you give. You cause the grass to grow for the cattle and plants for people to use to bring food from the earth. The high mountains are for the wild goats. The rocks are a refuge for the badgers. You have made the moon to mark the seasons. The sun knows its time to set. You make darkness, and it is night, when all the animals of the forest come creeping out. O Lord, how manifold are your works. In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your creatures. Yonder is the sea, great and wide, and creeping things innumerable are there, living things both small and great in the sea. There go the ships and the whale that you love to play with. These all look to you, O God, to give them their food in due season. When you give to them, they gather it up. When you open your hand, the animals are filled with good things. When you send forth your spirit, they are created, and you renew the face of the earth. O God, may your glory endure forever. Amen. We come now to the time for the homily. I would like to begin with just a few words. I said some of these to you in the latest e-blast. We are honoring animals today, giving thanks for creatures who bless us in so many ways, and it is a joy to do. But you know, it's also part of our faith. It's not just that we're being animal lovers. Our scriptures from beginning to end speak about the connectedness we have to all creation. We know from scripture that the animals are made from the very same stuff that we are all made from. The Christ stuff made the animals as it made us. They are our kin. They are our cousins. They are our family. The beloved community that God calls us to and toward is made up of all of us, and by the word us, we refer to the animals just as much as to the two-legged ones. So today, what we want to do is to allow some of you to share a story about an experience you had with one of your pets in which you felt unconditional love, in which you felt the Spirit of God, or if you don't want to call it God, the holy, or if you don't want to call it holy, call it the great life that is a part of all of our world. And share with us that moment that you had with a pet or an animal. And so that we all can marvel and wonder at how they are indeed part of creation, and in many cases are holy agents sent to bless us. So there is no order to this thing, reminding you to make sure you are on speaker view. We now invite any person, they could either wave at Chris with the icon, or just speak up now, and then we will proceed. Who would like to go first?
I will break the ice. This is Sue.
Good.
When Dan was alive, we had a cat who was very fat, and Stacy called him our obscenely obese cat. And a lot of the reason was because Dan fed him peanuts, and he trained him to jump when Dan tossed a peanut. But in general, he just loved to eat. He has now gone the way of Dan, but he was alive when Dan died. And I was blown away by the fact that when Dan, his buddy, died, he wouldn't eat for like 4 days. I was not aware that a cat could grieve like that. Maybe a dog, but I just had never experienced it with a cat. He would walk all around the house howling, looking for Dan, and it was extremely sad. And in an ironic way, it was comforting to know that someone in that household, when I was there alone, was grieving Dan as much as I was. So I felt a little silly about thinking this, but I'm going to say it out loud now. It felt sacred to me, the way this cat suffered when Dan died. And so that's my story. He eventually got over it and went back to his obese ways, but that's my story.
Sue, there is no question that that was sacred. And that animal modeled full-on grieving and then engaging life again. And if you'll permit me to say so, Sue, that seems to be exactly what you did.
Thank you.
Others?
Roxanne?
I can go, yeah. I have two, but I'll try to be quick. When Owen and I first got married, we moved into an Air Force base in California. And of course, I started volunteering at the Humane Society because that's just what I am. And I brought home a very hard luck case, little yellow lab, and her name was Lady. And I proceeded to get pregnant with Bryce because they told me I couldn't. And so I got a dog instead. So then I have both. And I'm very pregnant, and a man comes to the door, and Lady had every hair, every hackle, every tooth showing. And normally she wasn't very friendly because of her history, but this was beyond what she would normally act like. And I had to hold her back with all my strength. And the man said he was from base housing checking the carbon monoxide detectors. And he said, will you put your dog away? And because of the way she was acting, I wouldn't do it. I said, no, I'll just hold her and stand here. And he walked into my hallway, turned around and walked out of my house. I called base housing that day and said, who is out doing carbon monoxide? And they said, nobody, ma'am, there's nobody out there. So I still credit her for whatever he was going to do that day. She wasn't going to let him. Of course, she got really protective of me, the more pregnant with Bryce I got. So my mom always told me to listen to dogs over people. They were good judges of character. My second story is Tripoli. You've all probably met Tripoli. He was at church a lot. If I taught Sunday school, he came. The kids would listen so much better to me if they were touching Tripoli while we were talking. And he was such a blessing to me. I didn't get him till he was 8 years old. And He was a natural comfort to most people who met him. And we did a lot of therapy work in the local nursing home. And there was a man there, a stroke victim, that Tripp was very, very attracted to. Tripp was very good at finding who needed him and leading me to them. And he would stand next to this man's bed and it would take him a long time to move his hands because he was a stroke victim. So he had a lot of trouble coordinating his movements. And Tripp would just stand there very patiently and let this man reach down and pet him. And I would talk to this man and never really verbalized with me. And then one day we went and Tripp did his normal thing. That's where we needed to go. And the wife was there. And the man put his hands on Tripp and he started talking to his wife. And I said, wow, I didn't know your husband was verbal. And she said, I've never heard him talk like this, not since his stroke. He could say a word, he could stutter a little, but he was talking to us in full sentences with both of his hands on Triple E. That really moved me, really moved me. And after Tripp died, a number of you reached out to me and said he was so soothing and comforting to you. And I didn't even know that you two had interacted because that's just who he was. So he was my blessing.
Thank you, Roxy. Oh, what vivid image of the holy and the sacred. Thank you so much. Who would like to go next?
I will go. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Mine isn't, my story isn't nearly as profound as.
Barb, you're on mute.
No, I'm not. No, it's not on mute here.
You're right now.
Now we can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I said it's my story is not as profound as both Roxy's and Sue's, but all I can say is my animal, Annie, my cat, has saved me a lot. She has been my companion throughout all of this. As you know, my family all lives out east. It has been a very long time since I've gotten to see children and grandchildren. It's been since December of last year. And Annie's there, and as everybody knows, my friends who've watched her for me know that she yells at me whenever she wants something and when I've been gone. So all I can say, she is a blessing and has been a blessing for me throughout this time. And I did rescue her from a farm. And I have to tell you, she started yelling at us when we used to arrive at 11 o'clock at night, my friend and I, to her farm. And this cat would come out from the barn and start yelling at us. And it took us a couple of days and time to get her to come out, and she finally did. So I put her in the car overnight. It was a very cold, frigid morning. And she slept all night in the car for the first time, probably away from this horrible winter that we had in 2014. So if she yells at me, I'm very happy. It's not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. God's presence in the animals is something that many of us have felt. Thank you. Who would like to go next?
I'll go next. I got my Rico. He is a Maltese. He is a senior, and I got him almost a year ago, and as a rescue. And he is just, I don't know, the thing that he gives me the most of is unconditional love. And the interesting thing is that he has had a rough time along the way, and so have I. And he just, I don't know what it is, just knowing that he is there, and the way that he lights up when I come home, and he just loses his mind when I come home. It's so fun. And just this last week, he was at the vet for a checkup. And because of COVID, what we do is we pull up into the parking lot, and then we call, and then a technician comes out and gets Rico, you know, and all of that. And so then you go away while they do the procedure, and then you go back and they bring the dog out. And I'll tell you, when those doors opened, and he saw me, and he almost broke the leash. And it was just amazing. And that's exactly how I feel about him. And the truth is that we rescued each other.
Oh, thank you, Chris. What a beautiful witness to that sweet spirit and what animals mean. Thank you. Are there others?
AJ?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. I could be here all day telling animal stories, dogs, cats that have been so important in our lives. But I thought I would share something kind of unique in the Pratt story. We have had over the years, not all at once, but 7 horses. And we haven't had horses in several years, but we do have a dear friend that shares theirs with us. And there, as most of you know, I have a chronic leukemia that causes a lot of horrid itching and pain. And I have a lot of that kind of under control, but there was this period of time where we were between housing, and these dear people let us stay at their horse farm. And when I would be miserable, which would be hours every day, I would go out to see the horses. And one night, it was moonless, no light whatsoever, and Aaron was staying with us. And we decided, because I was feeling so bad, to go down to the barn and the paddock to see the horses. Well, it was so dark, you really couldn't see the horses. We knew they were out in the paddock eating hay. And you could sometimes make out a shape moving, and certainly hear the sound of them sneezing like that. So we knew they were there. And so Aaron and I just stood there silently for a long time. And I had my head down on the top of the fence, and the barn cats were rubbing against my legs. And then Aaron says, "Look who's coming." And out of the deep darkness came this glorious white horse named Legacy. And Legacy walked up to us and lowered his head down to the level of our body and started doing meditation breathing. He was doing deep breathing. And I'd never heard a horse do that before. And I felt the message from him was, AJ, you need to breathe. And I realized in my pain, I was holding my breath and my stomach really tight. And so I started matching my breathing with the horse Legacy, and so did Aaron. And that horse stayed there for a half an hour doing that before we all felt finished, and he turned away and walked back into the darkness. And I will always remember Legacy for that.
Thank you, darling.
Looks like Marcia's hand is raised.
Mine isn't really affecting me directly, but anybody who knows our daughter Becky knows that she's pretty much of an introvert. And we've always had dogs, but we didn't for a while. And she wanted a puppy, but she was in an apartment. So she got this wonderful puppy. And he stayed with us, but she'd come over after work, pick him up, take him to the dog park every day, and bring him back. And we became very attached to him, obviously, because he lived with us for 2 years. But anyway, Becky met her husband at the dog park. And they got married in 2010, and Colby was the ring bearer. So she's a very happy camper now.
Oh, that's a great story. Thanks, Marcia. A matchmaker. Oh, they do everything. Who else? Who would like to go next?
Good morning, everyone. This is Marilee speaking. I have two quick pet stories to share. First was when I lived with my grandmother, that is the mother of my birth mother that died when I was a child. Anyway, I lived with her around 3.5 years, something like that. And she had a Siamese cat. And it took her a little while, but she eventually got to know me, and she would lie down so I could pet her and everything. She was a pretty nice cat. She was Grandma's companion. Then a little later on in the time I was with her, we got a dachshund, and that was quite the combination because Princess wanted to play with Lisa, the dog, and anyway, wherever I was, I finished my dog and cat story. I hope you've heard all of that. When I lived with my grandmother, we had a dog, a dachshund named Lisa, and her pet was a Siamese cat named Princess. And the thing I remember so much about those two is that Lisa wanted to play, of course, because she was a young puppy, and so Princess would jump over the chair to get away from her and everything. It sounded so funny. Oh no, we don't need the phone ringing right now. Anyway, the other story was when I was in junior high. My dad was an outdoor guy and nature lover and all that, but we got 3 baby crows. And anyway, and I remember looking at them in the garage, and their mouths were wide open. They thought you were going to put food in their mouths and everything. That was kind of cool. Anyway, 1 or 2 of them would make a lot of different sounds, and one's name was Joe and one was Smokey, but we found out Smokey was actually a female later on. That's a strange thing. But anyway, they would talk, and I'm gonna do a sound as close as I can, like the way they used to talk, and 1 or both of them, they'd say my brother's name, and they'd say, hello, Alan, like, it sounds something like that. Those are my 2 good memories about pets.
Well, thank you. It sounds like they've listened a lot to the English language and was trying to join in. That's great.
They did.
Thanks, Marilee. That's a good story. Thank you. Are there others?
Emily's hand is raised.
Yes. Hi. Can you say hi? So my small story is that our cat that we have had for almost 5 years now, he's the reason I took a pregnancy test and found out I was pregnant with Josie. So he's Matt's cat, loves Matt, tolerates me. He'll cuddle with me if Matt's not around. But if I'm chopped liver compared to Matt. But before I found out I was pregnant, that cat would not leave me alone and would constantly snuggle me and basically suffocate me in my sleep because he wanted to be so close. One time he hopped in the shower. He was very protective. And then I had a client kind of tell me a story where she found out she was pregnant because she has a cat, same kind of situation, doesn't like her, likes her husband. But when she knows she's pregnant, because the cat will not leave her alone. And I'm thinking, oh, that's weird. My cat's kind of doing the same thing. And so I just took a pregnancy test and it was positive. And when I told Matt, literally right when he got home, I was still processing. After the shock initially wore off, he looked at our cat and he was like, you were trying to tell us, weren't you?
Oh, wow. Isn't that amazing?
It's kind of wild.
That is just that just speaks about their connectedness to us at a deep level. Wow. Thank you. Thanks so much, Emily. Who would like to go next?
It looks like Sarah's hand is raised. Oh, it's gone now.
Okay.
There we go. I just more have a story about how our last cat came to us it seemed like it was sent to us because it was Evelyn's last hippotherapy, probably a month or so before she passed. And we've been going out there for at least 2 years. And out at the horse farm, they don't have any cats. And they've never had any cats anytime that we've been there. And that day that we didn't know it was going to be our last, the horse and all of them walked down from the barn with a cat chasing behind them. And I'm like, where did the cat come from? And they said that the cat had just arrived like a week before and was living with the horses. And, but they were going to have to get rid of the cat because they lived on a busy road and weren't able to keep it. And in the meantime, we went into the arena and it's all closed off and the cat was left outside. And the cat found a way, in a funny way, to climb underneath a tiny little door and came and just rolled all over my lap the entire time. And it was the cuddliest, like most affectionate, I can't even talk, but cat that I've ever seen. And she was soft and didn't seem like it was even a wild cat or anything. I'm like, she has to be somebody's. And the person they had already called, which I didn't realize, an animal control type person that had come there to get the cat. So the cat held on to me and didn't want me to let it go as this guy ripped the cat away from me. And I'm not normally a huge cat person, Joe is. And so I got the information from him on what happens next and everything. And for some reason, I felt strongly compelled when I've never done that before to get this cat. So when all was said and done, it took about 2 to 3 weeks. The cat came to us maybe a week or two before Evelyn passed. And it cost over $1,000 because there was all kinds of vet bills and stuff to fix the cat. So it was a much bigger thing than we were anticipating, and we were kind of kicking ourselves. And now this cat is the most affectionate cat that anybody has ever seen, where she sleeps with me, she sleeps around my neck, she sleeps on the pillow under the covers with us. And we have another cat that is a great cat, but she's not super affectionate. She's lovey, but she can't cuddle. And this cat is just the perfect, softest, like most affectionate cat. And it seems like it was literally just sent to us at the right time, you know.
Oh, Sarah, what a story. Oh, you could just think of so many things to say about Evelyn's spirit and wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I'm a special member of the family.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Are there others?
Oh, Karen Johnson here with Lily Lou.
Hey there, kitty.
Church with me every Sunday. She enjoys. I adopted Lily Lou 2 years ago. She was a farm cat down the road, but Last Hope had her over in Farmington and Rosemont in the grain building. And I went over and I met her in the room. They have couches and chairs. And she came to me and I put a deposit down and thought about it. Anyway, Lily Lou is now 4 years old, and it took her a couple of years to trust me insofar as I wasn't going to eat her food, and she likes water. I'm a swimmer, part mermaid, and she enjoys bubbles and watching water pour out of the bathtub spout and on and on. She meets me at the door. She's part dog, I think. She's learning to talk. She can say what when I call her. She has been my emotional support for the last 2 years. It's been wonderful
Oh,
to have her.
thank you, Karen. She is demonstrating it as you speak, just right there by your head.
Yeah, well, she attends church every Sunday on Zoom with me. And
Hello,
this
Steve.
time I put on the video.
Yeah.
Hello.
Thank you so much, Karen. That was a beautiful story.
Thank you.
Are there others?
I think I saw Jerry and Steve raise a hand. Did I? Yes.
Well, some of you maybe remember my father, who was in Minneapolis in a nursing home the last few years of his life, and I would always pick him up for church on Sundays and bring him to church with us. And when it came time for him to pass, I was so privileged that I and my sister Janelle were able to be with him for his passing. And after he died in the nursing home, we spent some time that day with his body, and we brought residents in to come and say goodbye to him. And then we spent some time cleaning up, gathering his belongings and bringing them outside and packing them into our car. And just as we had packed everything into our cars, a big, huge rabbit came and hopped right up to Janelle. And it was the biggest rabbit you've ever seen, really round and fluffy. And it stood there right at her feet. And Janelle reached down and petted this rabbit. And we thought, this is really, really strange. And she petted it for a while and then it hopped away. And of course, in the passion of the moment, we forgot all about it. That was Dad passed on Sunday morning about 10:15, right when the choir was singing, by the way. And so Thursday morning, Janelle calls me and she says, Jerri, last night I woke up in the middle of the night and I said to myself, oh my gosh, Dad came to me as a rabbit. And I said, what are you talking about? And she said, when I was a kid, our mom had died, and we had a stepmom, which was not a happy situation. And Janelle wanted to have a puppy or a kitty, and stepmom said, no, absolutely not. And so then Janelle said, well, how about a rabbit? And Dad said, yes, Janelle, as soon as I build you a rabbit hutch, we can get you a rabbit. Well, it never happened. And over the years, Dad often said to Janelle, I'm so sorry. I never built that rabbit hutch for you. I never got you that rabbit. And in the middle of the night, Janelle woke up and she said, that was Dad.
This is great, Jerri. It's like we're hearing all of these really moving stories. And this reminds us about the sense of humor in the divine and how that comes through the animals. That is wonderful. What a great story. Thank you for sharing, Jerri. Oh boy. Are there others?
I don't see any raised hands or any.
Okay.
Chris, I see one in the upper right-hand corner of my screen, Club Burnsville.
It's me.
And then I'd like to go next.
Oh, okay. There we go. Thank you. I'm so sorry.
Okay, this is Kathy. When our daughter was still living out on the East Coast, she was doing home nursing at that time, and she was caring for an elderly lady who had just a phenomenally well-trained companion dog. And when she passed, Jenny and the attorney were stuck with, okay, what are we going to do with this dog? And Jen said, I'll take her. My dad would love her. Well, my mom was living with us. She did not like dogs. And I said, we can't have this dog. So a couple times she flew her home at Christmas. And finally we said, okay, we'll take her. Well, Lady became the best thing that ever happened because my mom was ill. Dave and I were both still working. She would lay at my mother's feet all day while we worked, or lay with her, sit with her head in her lap. I mean, she loved Grandma. And I mean, the poor dog was, when my mom passed, she was really upset. And we'd already lost our Maltese. And she's buried with Grandma. We put her little box right next to her because that's where she laid, on my mom's right side. Well, then we lost Lady. And then the rest of the story is Dave's.
Thank you. Lady was quite a companion dog. She came from the East Coast. My daughter's patient died and she didn't know what to do.
I already told him that.
So she brought her home and I took over on the dog, and she was quite an animal. I come home from work at midnight, she'd be waiting for me, and she'd immediately get out in front and chase a raccoon or something. I'd let her go and she'd chase an animal. Whatever she did, she didn't catch it, but she was quite the animal. But she knew every move I was going to make, or any move I made, she knew. And then she had hip dysplasia and she couldn't walk anymore, so she was put down. And it was a sad day. But after she was put down, she had a hard day. She showed up one night in my dream, walked alongside me in the bedroom and said, it said to me, that you're going to be okay. That's my story.
Oh, thank you, Dave. Oh my goodness. Isn't it amazing how God comes to us and ministers to us and loves us through the animals? Thank you so much. Beautiful story. Kate?
Hi, everyone. I have I'm going to go from light to heavy, I guess. I asked for chicks for Mother's Day this year, thinking, oh, how fun would it be to have these little tiny chickens, and forgetting that they get big very quickly. But nevertheless, taking care of them, getting out of bed every morning, knowing I get to go and see my chickens and let them out, and they just help themselves to the garden, and they scratch and find bugs and worms, and I just take great delight in watching them do their funny little chicken moves, and they've been the one kind of constant routine. I know everybody said at the beginning of COVID, find a routine and stick to it, and I was like, that's not really how I roll, but thanks anyways. But the chickens are the one kind of routine that every morning I get up and I let them out and I watch them frantically let themselves out of the coop, go help themselves to the kale in the garden. And then at night, Louis trained them to go up on a lawn chair to put themselves up in the coop. So I say, go on, girls, go up. And it's funny, one by one, they hop on the chair and hop into the coop and put themselves to bed. And it's just, they're hilarious and they're really funny. And I just really enjoy having them. More than I knew I would like it, but I like it even more than I thought I would. They've just been a blessing. The next one is I had the great privilege and honor of attending my friend's birth as her doula, her birth coach. Literally the day before, all the hospitals said no birth coaches besides the partner of the mother giving birth. And that was March 9th. And in their family, they believe that cardinals are a sign of their grandmother who has passed, saying, I'm here, I'm with you. And their whole family's redheads. And so it's very significant in the fact that it's a cardinal. And she had a very intense labor, kind of right from the beginning. And once we got into her birthing room, I heard a bird chirping out the window, and sure enough, there was a cardinal in the bush right outside her room. And it just brought her such comfort to know that to feel that her grandmother was with her, to remind her that, you know, she wasn't alone and that she could do it. And she ended up naturally birthing a 11-pound, 1 ounce little redheaded boy that day, and it was just such an honor to see. But earlier, when I was on my way from work to the hospital, God had sent 2 bald eagles for me. One flying up high, so high I almost couldn't see it, and one down low. And it was as if God whispered, here's one for mama and one for baby, respective of where their heads are in relation to each other. And that brings me to my third thing. Some of you may have seen my eagle wing tattoo on my right shoulder and upper arm. And that significance is God has sent me over 100 bald eagles over the last 2 or 3 years. When I have needed comfort, encouragement, and hope the most, I will be so far down in the valley and I'll have to run and get some sort of critical thing at the grocery store or Target, or have to go to the office because of some meeting and I just don't want to go and I'm crying the whole way, and God will send me a bald eagle to remind me, I'm always watching you. I'm always with you. My perspective can be trusted. My timing is impeccable. And when I need to swoop in, I will. But in the meantime, I'll just be right here. And I can't even tell you how many times the bald eagle has brought me to tears, joy and comfort and peace, and remembering how seen and how loved I really am by our Creator.
Thank you, Kate.
You're welcome. Thank
Beautiful.
you.
Thank you. Chris, is that, does that look like it?
I'm just bawling my head off. I don't see anyone. Please raise a hand if we have. Oh, the Carlson Oaknick. Go ahead. Unmute. There you are.
We had a rescue dog named Stanley. He was a Doxie. My niece worked at a shelter, and the Doxie came in and she said, oh, you guys have to come up and look at him and get him. And he was deathly afraid of men because he had been abused by men, is what we assume. Someone actually found him on the hot side of Highway 8 in a box. They saw the box moving and stopped and found him and then brought him to the rescue. Well, my dad had Alzheimer's and my mom was taking care of him, but my mom got really sick and ended up having to go into the hospital and nursing. And so we ended up taking my dad for 10 months and have him live with us. And we were both working, and our biggest fear is that he would wander out of our house or he would leave. But Stanley, our rescue, kept him busy the whole time I was at work. He would have my dad throw a ball for him 8 hours a day, and he would run and get it every single time. And then when my dad would get tired of doing it, he would actually nudge the ball up or put the ball in my dad's lap, so my dad had to keep doing it. And then the one time that my dad did wander off out our backyard, Stanley barked and barked and howled until our neighbor Bart across the street realized what was going on, and Bart, of course, helped my dad get back in the yard. That's the point that we knew we couldn't keep Dad anymore. But for 10 months, Stanley kept my dad entertained every day while I was at work.
Wow. They know, don't they, Joe? They just know.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Thank you so much. Go ahead and move, Chris, to the hymn that Jan's going to play. Oh God, your creatures fill the earth. And now we get to see some of the pets we've been talking about and some that hasn't been mentioned yet. But we're going to get to see them. Chris is going to play a slideshow that she has worked on and our wonderful Michelle Potter has worked to put together.
Oh, hold on.
Thank you all for sending in pictures. I'm keeping an eye on the length of the service, and what I'm going to do here, Chris, is we're not going to do the prayer of thanksgiving, but folks, it is a beautiful prayer, and I'm going to have it reproduced and put in the e-blast this week so that you will be able to see it. I really sincerely invite you to read it. It is a very, very moving prayer. So I hope you will do that. So now we come to the blessing of the animals. The way this will happen is Chris will help line up people one at a time, make sure that everybody's on speaker and muted, and then the person that Chris designates, of course, unmute. and say something, say this is, and tell me the name of the pet, and that should make your picture come up. And then I will pronounce a blessing as you, the owner, the companion of the animal, put your hand on the animal as I say the blessing. That concludes our time focusing on God's creatures and our pets. And it was extremely moving. And I thank all of you for participating and reminding us about the oneness of creation. Can there be any doubt after listening to those stories and seeing these pictures? Can there be any doubt about that all creation is one and connected to God? Thanks be to God. We come now to our prayer time, and I have two I would like to share with you. We will, we do not have a prayer to put on the screen, the Lord's Prayer, but we're going to do the traditional Lord's Prayer. I will lead it, and remember we say our Father and our Mother. So let us conclude our prayer time. Our Father, our Mother, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Friends, let us, Chris, if you'll put up the prayer of dedication, let us pray this prayer in unison as we seek to bless the tithes and offerings that we give for the work of God's kingdom here on earth. Let us pray together. All of life comes from you, O God, the air around us and our ability to breathe. All of life is a gift. Let us take our place in the circle, taking what we need with one hand, passing on what another needs with the other. Amen. Friends, are there any announcements that you would like to make? Attention to what will be our going out song. Chris will put that up. You may have heard AJ say, no, that was, I think, earlier talking to Tessa and Chris, but this song, AJ was the creator of an arts and nature camp for kids that was just fabulous. And this was the theme song every year. One way or another, we always got around to all God's critters, got a place in the choir. One of the most fun, energetic, cool, neat songs you could ever imagine. I'll just point out to you that we start off with the chorus, then we sing all the way through, and then at the very end is the chorus again. We go back to the top. And you can't do this and sing this without feeling a lot of energy, so just kind of let your hair down and really go for it. I believe, am I right, that Steve Johnson, you are accompanying with guitar, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, so whenever you're ready, Steve, lead us into it.
All God's critters got a place in the choir. Some could go, some sing higher, some sing out loud on a telephone wire. Some just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now. Listen to the bass, it's the one on the bottom where the bullfrog croaks and the hippopotamus moans and groans with the big doo-doo. The old town just goes blue. Well, the dogs and the cats, they take up the middle. The honeybee hums and the crickets fiddle. The donkey brays and the pony pays. The old coyote howls. Listen to the top where the little bird sings. The melody with the high voice ringing. The hoot owl hollers over everything. And the jaybird disagrees. Singing in the nighttime, singing in the day. The little duck quacks and he's on his way. Possum don't have much to say, and the porcupine talks to herself. Everybody here is part of the plan. We get to play in the great critter band. Eagle in the sky to the whale in the sea. It's one great symphony. All God's critters got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing higher, some way loud loud on a telephone wire. Some just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now.
Woo! Thank you, Steve. That was awesome. Thank you, everyone, for your participation today. May God bless you and keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May God's countenance be lifted up upon you and grant you peace always. And let all God's people say, Amen. And thank you, Chris and Tessa, and all the musicians and everyone who, Jan and all the Johnsons and just everyone. Who am I leaving out, Chris? But thank you for everybody for helping this service happen.